clients are your customers, the people you are selling these ideas, the people you are presenting this business case to. The clients can be internal or external, as the case may be.
Okay, all right. So I just wanted to point out something.
Okay.
Most of the times, business cases are usually internal documents. They are not used for external stakeholder, like your customers. You are not going to present a business case to most of the time as an FM, you're not going to present the business case to your customer. Most of the time, especially if you are working in in a facility management service organization, which we are likely going to talk about in this discussion. Most of the time, what you'll be presenting will just be more of a proposal, which might actually be based on the templates the client has given to you initially. Most of the time, you just put your cost and you just defend your cost. So it's not really a business case per se. The use of business case most of the time, in fact, if not all of the time, is to convince your internal stakeholder, especially your top management, to approve a given project you are trying to embark on as an FM person. And the reason why we use that basically, and the reason why I'm trying to explain this so that you understand the key difference between a proposal, which you usually use for your external stakeholder, and a business case, is ideally, the internal resources of your organization are quite limited in terms of, this is what my organization, maybe you are running an organization and you have about 6 different contracts, and each of those contracts are handled by different facility managers, right? Now, each of those facility managers might require a substantial amount of, as the case may be. And you use your business case in a situation where you are asking your organization, your management, something beyond your day-to-day requirement. For example, I have a generator in one of my sites I'm managing, and I figured the generator might probably be due for replacement. And maybe my organization is responsible for replacing that generator. And maybe there's another facility manager somewhere also requesting for money to do one capital project. Truth to it is you use business case most of the time when we are dealing with capital projects, something that require a substantial amount of money. And the reason being that you are trying to convince your management that give me this money, instead of giving this money to a Mr. A, give me this money. And the reason why I should be giving this money is based on this beautiful presentation or justification I have done. While I am also, most of the time, organizations do what we call priority matrix, looking at different projects that we want to do and trying to decide which of these projects is more important that we can commit our resources to. And that's where the whole idea of business is coming in, for you to convince management that this, yes, I know this money is very important, it's very big, but at the end of the day, the benefit you are getting from me executing this project will be worth your wow. That's the whole idea of business case. So business case, most of the time, all of the time, is actually an internal document. Whether you prepare it most of the time to accompany a project. You want to do a project, you're trying to get approval for that project, so you write a business case to convince your management that the project is viable. Instead, you are convincing them that using some what they call economic indicator, you are using your internal rate of return, or you are using your payback period to analyze the economic viability of your project. And most of the time, trust me, FM projects sometimes does not have economic viability. So you have to leverage on what we call the balance scorecard to kind of analyze what is important to my organization and how does this fit into, I think there are about 4 different categories inside scorecard. there's the financial aspect of it, there's the process aspect of it, there's the I think the technological part of it, and there's one other one I can't recall at the moment. So use those four categories to analyze your project, and you can use that to also justify that, okay, fine, we needed to, based on this, we can, I can use this to convince. So I think that kind of summarizes everything. I just wanted to chip one or two things into that discussion. Today, we'll be talking about facility management organization, which is quite an interesting topic. And the key reason why we want to talk about this is in two forms. As a career person, you need to understand the kind of facility management organization you are going into to kind of help you to understand how does your career pan out. What should I expect? So, for example, you are given a facility management offer today. How can you assess the next 5 years of your career in this given organization? How do you tell that, okay, in the next 2 years, or in the next 3 years, or in the next 5 years, where am I likely going to be? What kind of position am I likely going to be holding based on this organization? Also, the reason why we are also learning this is if a facility management company, and maybe you are starting your company, or you are thinking of starting your company, having this understanding of what a facility management organization actually entails help you to know when you are dealing with external, when you are dealing with customers. You'll be able to know the kind of facility management organization they are running, and you'll be able to know what kind of service you should be proposing to them. If I'm dealing with MTN, for example, understanding that MTN run a kind of what we call a regional FM organization will let me know how to structure my proposal to them if I want to make a proposal to them. MTN has regional offices, they have outlet and the like. So that gives me a bit of understanding of how to approach, or probably I want a contract with MTN, for example, to manage their entire portfolio. Understanding the kind of facility management organization they are running will let me know how to structure my own team to be able to mirror exactly what they are running. So that is the main idea. And also it helps you either as a facility management professional or as a facility management organization to know there are some kind of contracts you will have. Understanding the kind of, for example, at my level, if a school called me and say, oh, come and be a facility manager, I'm probably going to turn it down, right? Given the fact that maybe a private school, for example, called, oh, come and be a facility management, whatever for them. I'm probably going to turn it down. And the reason being that understanding what FM organization actually entails and knowing exactly where I want to be now in my current career, will let me know that, oh, in this place, I don't have a future here. Or probably they don't need me here, Understand if you can also use that to, there's sometimes you have people that will approach you and say, you know what, oh, we like you, please come and help us to manage whatever. I'm like, nah, I can't work for you guys. But, I can help you guys put one or two things at a consulting level, but at my level, no, you don't have enough portfolio to support my current level of experience. And because of that, you'll be paying so much and you'll probably be getting so little from it because you don't have enough to go with the kind of wealth of experience I am bringing into the game. So that's one of the reasons why it's quite essential for us to go through this particular course. So for this, I think we'll be dealing with about 6 modules. I'll try as much as possible to go through it as fast as possible, focusing on the key areas that we need to pay attention to. The first module talking about levels of organization. We'll talk about component of a given organization. We'll talk about, so the first 3 modules is not really the key focus of our discussion, where the key focus of our discussion is between the module 4 to 6, because that's where we'll be able to dive deep into what is obtainable on the field with respect to running a successful facility management service. So in module 1, basically what we want to talk about is talking about the various modules, various levels of FM, the way we break down FM in terms of what to expect. And if you guys have been conversant with the discussion from day one, I'm 100% sure Mr. Paul or some of the facilitators will have mentioned these 3 levels of FM, where we're talking about operational level, tactical level, and strategic level. And you probably have heard a lot of discussion about facility managers striving to be at least at the, if not at the strategic level, at least be at the tactical level. And what is the significance of this level? Now, the operational level is basically your day-to-day activity, things you do, service generator, you manage generator, you operate generator, you operate your ACs, those activities itself, the direct day-to-day activities, most of the time being carried out by your technicians, are what we call the operational activity, your janitorial staff, your technician staff, your security personnel and the like. The day-to-day activity they do, the real activity, is what we always call the operational level FM. Now, those activities don't just come from the thin air. Somebody has sat down and put down a very sound plan. You have your annual work plan that you have designed to say, okay, this is how I want to operate for this year. You have done your PPM and the like. You have structured, you have kind of done your work schedule, your janitorial schedule, you have created maybe a roster to know that this person will do this and whatever. All those activities that accumulated into those plans, generating SOPs, creating work plan, strategizing in terms of, okay, this is how I want to plan that too. On Monday, these are the people that are going to work and stuff like that. Oh, okay, my AC is due for servicing. I need to plan ahead. I need to write to management. Like we said, you want to write maybe a business case. You want to write a memorandum for approval for something. You are planning your inventory to ensure that you always have the right stock and stuff like that. So all those supervisory and those high-level planning, not really that translate, those planning that really not translate to the day-to-day activity, those planning that goes into what will really happen at the end of the day is what we call the tactical level of facility management. Now, the strategic level basically is talking about most of the time, operational are daily kind of stuff. Then tactical, from your planning for maybe a weekly activity, a monthly, down to almost a year kind of activity. You can have multi-year plan also in tactical level, depending on what you're trying to achieve. But when we are talking about strategic, basically, we're talking about strategic FM, where we are looking at the business strategic position or strategic plan, and we are translating those strategic plan into FM. And most of the time, strategic level is talking about long-term planning. You are doing capital replacement planning, you are doing real estate planning, like, based on the current rate of growth of my organization, we'll probably be needing another plot of land somewhere, or we'll start building, or we probably will need to rent, what do you call it, more facility to accommodate the growth and stuff like that. I needed to change my chiller in the next 10 years, and you are doing a lot of life cycle analysis and stuff like that. Those are high-level planning where you can link the entire FM, whatever, to where the organization is going as a business. That's what we're talking about, strategic level FM. And what this diagram is trying to deplete, in summary, is trying to say that as you move from operation to tactical down to strategic, you will discover that the number of people or systems that you need decreases, which is shown by this blue triangle. However, the impact of your work as you move from operational to strategic increases significantly. If I cannot plan at the strategic level to link what the organization wants to achieve based on its strategic goals to what FM is doing, we are going to have what they call a disalignment of activity, which means FM will be doing so much, but will be having a zero or no impact on where the organization will be going, which means the organization will be going to Yaba, FM will face Ibadan, which means at the end of the day, the organization will just be saying, we don't even know what FM is doing. Are you guys even serious? You know, and which shows that yes, your people on ground might be cleaning everything, doing everything, and what have you. But because those activity does not link up with where the organization is going, because the FM or the FM personnel or the FM manager has failed to link whatever his strategic idea is to where the organization is going, is all zero, right? Now, if FM is able to capture those high-level strategic goal of the organization and translate it to FM-oriented goal that aligns with that, but fails to be able to, break that multi-long whatever strategy into a annual plan that can now be, distilled down to the operational level, which means this guy here will be doing whatever they like, and he has no translation to whatever the organization is looking for on the long run. So I always tell people that the tactical is the glue between the strategic and the operational. What the tactical is doing is taking these high-level ideas, these high-level goals, and is breaking it down into what can be achieved on a day-to-day basis, where at the end of the day, when you sum up everything that has been done from the day-to-day, whatever, it should accumulate. And when you sum it up, it should give you exactly what the strategic is trying to achieve on the long run. So that's the whole summary of what we are trying to, when we are trying to talk about operation, tactical, or strategic FM. So moving on, there are several. So when we are talking about FM organization, basically, there are several types of FM organization, and I'm going to go through them one after the other to be able to explain what they are and how to spot them. When you find yourself, dealing with either a new organization or even your own internal organization, where you are trying to understand what kind of facility management processes you are running as an organization. The first one is the customer-driven FM organization model. And that basically is talking about, you can find yourself in an organization where, yes, they have an FM department, but the FM department does not have the final say on how to approach a given issue. You have an FM issue, FM cannot jump into it. You can have an organization where FM thinks, oh, there's a need, for example, a bank, FM thinks, oh, there's a need for them to paint the bank branch. In a customer-driven organization, the bank can tell you that, no, you can't paint. We don't have the money for you to paint. And the reason why we call it customer-driven, because at the end of the day, whatever money is being spent by FM is going to be paid for by the customer or by the customer unit that requested for that service. So in those kind of where they are doing chargeback and what have you. So in those, in fact, in some organization, what they do is FM will be asked to quote for a service. And just like what an external vendor will have done. In fact, when FM quotes, they can even ask external vendor to quote, and they will compare, which means your FM department will be competing for service with external people. So, which means that the FM will be how would I put it? The FM department will be forced to innovate and be very competitive with respect to their service delivery. So in most of the time, you kind of use this kind of model when you are supporting for a highest demand service, organizing into business unit, custom service, fast response, flexibility, revealing to customer objective. So what we are saying in essence, all this big grammar we are saying is that this kind of model is most of the time, used in an organization where there's kind of a chargeback system where the customer unit has to pay for every of the services they are requesting for, which make it means that before a service can be rendered, the customer unit or the customer has to agree to that service before FM can go ahead to carry out the expected service. Now, when we talk about the office manager is quite kind of straightforward, which is kind of a FM organization model you find in mostly one-man business, and it's kind of common in an organization where the facility in question is not owned, is kind of a leased property where they have a landlord, maybe they have listed a two-bedroom flat, or for example, you have a leased more like a shopping space in the shopping mall, for example, and you feel like, okay, you want to have somebody internally that will be responsible for FM related issue. Now, that person will not really be fully in charge of anything FM. They will most of the time be relating to the landlord, the FM related issue for the landlord to deal with. So it's more like the person is more like a liaison officer between the organization and either the landlord or the landlord team. So he's talking about a single lease facility with minimal FM, the FM manager function as a facility officer. Well, in the real sense of things, you don't really have an FM manager per se. You might probably have your HR also doubling as the office manager, or you have your admin officer, doing everything and still doing some FM related activities and stuff like that. You can also find this kind of setup also in schools, small schools, that they don't have a very big facility like that, and stuff like that. Then the second one or the third one is what we call a single location, one site FM model. And this is more like an advance to the office manager model, in where the facility in question is owned by the organization by the organization in question, which means they own the entire property, the single property located in a single geographical location. And based on that, given the fact that they own the entire property, they are responsible to keep the facility and the entire system in a good condition. And based on that, they might have an in-house facility manager or facility supervisor, depending on the complexity of the facility. And they might have a mixture of internal staff or leveraging more on vendors or service provider, as the case may be. So it depends on how complex the facility in question is. Then we have what we call one location, multiple site. One location, multiple site is similar to the one location, one site. The only difference is that we have a single location where we have our head office, maybe the main administrative function where the MDs and the top management is. Then you now have some off-site location where you perform some operation. You can be as simple as having an office location. Then you now have some warehouses where some minimal operation is to occur. For example, this is similar to the kind of operation most of the banks in Nigeria runs. Most of them have their head office probably on the highland, then they have office spaces across the country, right? Some might not use this one. They might be using what they call the multiple location or regional divide, where yes, they have an head office in Lagos, but at the six, in Nigeria we have six geopolitical zones. At each geopolitical zones, they have another head office, which they call the regional head office, that will be responsible for the entire region. All the bank branches in the region will be reporting to that. So it's more similar to what we have in the one location, multiple location. But the differences is that decisions for the entire location is not being carried out at the central, as the case of the one location. Is being carried out. Yes, a high-level strategic decision can be taken at the central head office, but the implementation of those high-level will be delegated to the regional office, which means that the regional office will be dealing with some region-specific strategy, at the same time translating the high-level strategy from the head office into tactical activities that can be implemented at the regional office. Now, but if you have a situation where, in Nigeria, we talk about geopolitical zone. But let's assume that instead of running a geopolitical zone kind of arrangement, we are running a what do you call it, a multi-country. So instead of us having region, we are having countries, where, let me say, we have GTB Nigeria, GTB Ghana, GTB Sierra Leone, but all of them still report to a central GTB head office, global GTB, global GTB will be the central location. But at each country, they will have country head for their FM operation. So those kind of activities, what we call the multinational kind of FM model, where an organization is running operation in multiple countries. But if an organization is running FM operation in a single country, but across multiple geopolitical locations, we're talking about multiple location or regional level. But if they are running their operation in a single location, but have multiple sites that depend on those single locations, we are running a one location, multiple sites kind of arrangement. So that kind of summarizes what you should expect. So if I'm dealing with, for example, in Max-Migold, we can't say what we are running basically based on the kind of operation model we run is more of an office manager kind of arrangement, because we don't have our own location. An organization like Standard Chartered Bank, for example, given the fact that I've worked with them in the past and I understand the entire way the organization runs, Standard Chartered Bank is running a multinational FM model. And the reason why it's like that is because Standard Chartered Bank is running, it doesn't have regional offices. I think when I was there, they have about 47 bank branches across the entire country. I was managing about 30 of those bank branches. And all the bank branches report back to the head office in Lagos. And every decision around FM or whatever is taken from that central position. But why we call it a multinational why we did not call it a one location, multiple site is because the central strategy that is being run by the bank is not being decided in Nigeria. Now, Standard Chartered Bank is a multinational organization, and they have several bank branches across the world in Asia, in Middle East, in Europe, in America, both North America and South America. And they have a global head of FM that usually have a meeting with all the head of FM across the globe, where they will discuss, okay, this is the strategy for the bank for this year, and each country head will take the global strategy and convert it to the national strategy that will be implemented across all bank branches. And that's the reason why their own model is a multinational. We can't call it, assuming the Standard Chartered Bank Nigeria and all its FM, whatever decision is being taken by Nigeria. They have no basis to the global. They are running independently. It will have been easier for us to call it a one location, multiple sites. MTN Nigeria is a different ballgame entirely. Yeah, even though we have MTN Nigeria, MTN Ghana, and whatever, MTN Nigeria is a single entity on its own that run its operation on its own. And based on the fact that I've worked with MTN too, in my days in Eliza, based on the way they run a regional, they have regional offices, and based on that, MTN is running the multiple location, or what we call the region or division-led facility management model. So I'm just citing this kind of example so that you kind of appreciate what we are trying to discuss. Now, before we go to component, there's something I quickly wanted to touch, which is what are the basic things you need to know as a facility management professional. Most of the time, either you are taking up a new job as an FM professional, or you are taking up a new contract as an FM organization. What are the basic information you need to know before you start using their generator and removing their radiator, because you are a very handsome FM manager with 20-something years of experience, and you want to impress either your employer or your client. Before you jump into removing their radiator and losing their engine, there are some basic information you need to know about your facility before you start coming up with different plenty idea that you have in your head. The first thing is the business requirements. And the business requirement, we are talking about what are the things that this organization undergo or we undergo to make money. And in the business cycle, they call them business drivers. These things that the activities the organization undergo for them to make money. You also want to know what are their needs, what are the constraints, right? Are they planning to make any business change? There was a time in Standard Chartered Bank where, based on the new strategy from their global whatever, they were moving. There was this era of digitization that the bank underwent, and because of that, they are closing that. When other banks are expanding and opening up branches everywhere and there, Standard Chartered Bank were closing down their bank branches. Not because they were running into any financial whatever, because the direction they were going was quite different. And because of that, they need to change their business model. So if I'm a facility management organization that is partnering with the bank, understanding the direction the organization is going will let me quickly make adjustment to some of my FM strategy on how to be able to serve the bank better. You need to understand expensive reduction, footprint reduction targets, especially for organizations that are sustainability focused. You need to understand your IT plan or their requirement, constraint, and technology. What kind of technology are they using? You get some organization they have their own platform solution that they are using, and you are coming on board either as a facility manager or as a facility a service provider. Understanding where they are coming from will let you know what kind of solution you can propose on how you can leverage on where you are coming to help the organization to achieve the best value for money. You need to have a better understanding of your site data, the address, the square footage, the number or type of occupant. You need to understand if the property you are managing or properties you are managing, if they were owned or if they were leased. You need to understand the hours of operation. If I'm working in an organization which is an educational organization with boarding school, I should know at the back of my hand that I am working 24 hours a day and 7 days a week kind of operation. If I'm working in an hospital, almost the same thing. It's different from if I'm working in the bank. A bank has opening hours and closing hours and stuff like that. The type of customers they serve and the likes, the kind of services, the kind of FM services. We talk about cost, we talk about performance, and other issues that might be important. For example, if I'm managing a power plant, for example, the power plant is highly unionized. So I need to pay attention to union issues. If you are managing a facility, especially in the Niger Delta region, where there's a lot of community involvement in most of whatever they are doing, you need to pay attention to some of those issues. So these are just a kind of a summary of things you need to know or pay attention to as a facility person when you are taking up a contract or taking up a new job. So moving forward, I won't want to spend so much time talking about this. This is I will call them characteristics of an FM organization or any organization we need to pay attention to be able to understand the kind of system we are dealing with. First of all, we talk about the structure and the culture. The structure is talking about the organogram. What kind of organogram are they running? Where do you fit in the bigger scheme of things? You're talking about the culture. How do people within that organization, how do they think? How do they do things? Because where you are coming from and the current organization might be quite different. I've been in an organization where we don't handle money physically. Everything is automated. You have a service, they submit invoice, you give it to account department, they process it. In fact, the money then in the bank, the money is not even paid from Nigeria. The person that will process the invoice is even from Ghana, which means that I raise an invoice for a service, the vendor has gone to perform the service, they have bring their job completion certificate and their invoice. I'll process the invoice, I'll give it to the account department to process. They will upload it into the system, and somebody in Ghana will go through all those documentation and ensure everything meets the required standard. If it meets, it approved. This is not whatever they reject. And once it's approved, the vendor will get automatically credited because the bank have all their details. Then I've gone to another organization where money is given to the FM directly, cash. In fact, cash is given. You have to go to the head office, go and collect raw cash. And when you have issue, you have to be the one paying and whatever. And based on that, a lot of chat practices go into a lot of plenty stuff. So, but understanding the key difference from where you are coming from and where you are going, let you understand how to make that mental change and to be able to protect yourself too on the ongoing basis, because you find yourself the way you are doing things might be the ideal way. Then you come to another location and the way they are doing things is like, God, where am I? Am I safe and stuff like that? We talk about centralization. Centralization is just a characteristic of an organization that kind of reflect on how decision is being made in that organization. You will find yourself in an organization in such a way as an FM, you can't even determine or make a decision on how to spend as little as 15 naira. You have to take permission from the oga at the top before you can make certain, decision. In those kind of organization, you say the organization is running a very centralized, they have a tight control over everything, and stuff. Then you find yourself in an organization where, as an FM, you can make decision to spend as high as 5 million, and nobody will ask you why, because the organization trusts your professional judgment to be able to make the right decision for the organization. So in those kind of organizations, you are running more of a decentralized system where at each level, there's a certain level of decision you can make until you go beyond that threshold before you call for a higher authority or something like that. Then we talk about the chain of command, which is still very closely tied to the structure, where we talked about how do you report? What is the reporting structure in your organization? We talk about span of control. Span of control is talking about how many people, for example, as a facility manager, how many people do you have under your control that have a direct report to you, where you can say, okay, I control maybe three supervisors and stuff like that. Line manager and staff management is talking about just a system where we have it's kind of tied to the chain of command, where you have a situation where you have a manager, you report to a manager and stuff like that. But in staff management, is kind of different. It's a system where you find yourself in an organization where you have, when you get to an organization where you have a lot of team lead, and stuff like that. It's more like you have a group of people on the same level, but you pick one out of them to be the mouthpiece of the entire group, so that you have a single source of interaction. Instead of dealing with the entire people at the same time, you just have one person that you can pass information to, and they can distill the information to the team, and also the same person you can talk to get information about how the team is doing. Then we talk about what is functional and structure. I will kind of delay explaining that, because the next slide will kind of give us a pictorial understanding of what functional or matrix model actually entails. We talk about the own or lease, which is talking about, is our organization, are we the owner of the properties or not? We talk about the spatial differentiation. You get to some organization where based on your hierarchy, the organization will tell you how many space is being assigned to you, the kind of table you are using, the kind of chair you are sitting on. Then you get to some organization, everything is uniform. You won't know who is who, until somebody tell, oh, that's your guy or whatever. You won't know, because everybody looks absolutely the same thing. So some organization will have that kind of system where you can create some kind of spatial differentiation to kind of show hierarchy within the organization. Then you can find yourself in an organization that have some specialized services or standardized services. You talk of relocation assurance. So these are just key characteristics you can pay attention to as an FM person, to kind of give you an understanding on how most of these from the special differentiation, standardized service, relocation and assurance, kind of give you an idea into what the culture of that organization is. In fact, the centralization characteristics also speak a lot about the given culture of that organization. So these are just things you need to pay attention to as a facility manager. Either you are going to a new organization, or you are just reflecting to kind of understand how your own organization is actually being run, because that will let you understand or how to better position yourself, and also how to interact or relate with other unit managers to be able to get the best out of whatever you are doing. Now, we want to quickly talk about what structure or matrix is. In a simple way, we talk about structure or functional. We talk about, imagine you take each department as a function, the functional unit in an organization. So when we are talking about the function or structural organization model, what we are simply saying is that is an organization where everybody in an organization will belong to a given department or to a given function. And based on that arrangement, right, the head of unit of one function cannot directly, delegate activity to a staff in another function without the express approval of the staff functional manager. At least to say, if I have staff in procurement, right, the facility manager cannot start giving instruction to the procurement officer in the procurement department without a written approval or an approval from the procurement manager. The same thing goes for the facility manager and the facility department or the facility function and the procurement manager. They can't go to facility department and start telling you, come and do this, you go and do that. No, right? If there will be a need for them to say, okay, we needed the support or whatever, it will be through the respective functional head before they can, do that. But when it comes to matrix, right, even though we have similar arrangement as this, if you look at this, we have the facility manager, and we have a lot of real estate consulting firm, renovation, security, all reporting to the facility manager. They are not reporting to this, they are not reporting, which means that the purchasing or the controller employee have no direct influence on all these people under the FM. In the matrix, we have a similar arrangement, but it's more like it's a two-way street, where a given staff, we have more than one functional unit manager, which you can see from this diagram. You have the administrative staff being reporting to the administrative director. At the same time, the HRVP can also have an influence on the same staff, which means that a staff, and in reality, what we are saying is that we can have a staff like an accounting officer, which by nature of his or her function belongs to the accounting department. But you can have a project that will need the service of an accounting officer dedicated to the project, and the project has a project manager, right? The accounting officer can be assigned to the project, which means that while still working on the project, reporting to the project manager, you also have some accounting activity that you need to report back to the accounting manager. So in that kind of system, what we have there is what we call a matrix organization model. And we use it a lot in FM, where we have a staff, given the specialist nature of his job. For example, you have a technician who is maybe a generator engineer, for example, right? And the organization have two different contracts. And in each of the contracts, you need to service the generator. The generator engineer will definitely be in the head office, probably reporting to the head of engineering or reporting to the head of electrical technician or whatever, or whoever his guy will be. But at the same time, the generator engineer will also need to report to the two facility managers managing the respective contracts, which means that if they need his service, they can easily call for him without needing to even go through the head of electrical. All they needed to is assign tax, and if the tax is assigned, if maybe he needed any resources, he can go to the head of maybe the head of electrical and say, okay, I have so request of so whatever, I need so resources for me to be able to carry out those kind of resource activity and stuff like that. So those are just the two basic types of facility organization model in terms of how we kind of structure our organization. So it's more like we are talking about organogram and the likes. Now, this is where it gets quite interesting, and we're going to spend the rest of today talking about this aspect of the FM organization concept. The first part is when we're talking about the traditional or what we call the in-house delivery model. What we are saying is that we have a FM services that we are handling internally, which means that every of the personnel that will be involved in that services are internal staff. Now, so we have the clients, which is the demand organization. It can either be our organization or the client we are trying to serve. So most of the time, this is being referenced when we have a demand organization that is not using the service of a facility service organization, which means, for example, you have a bank, and in that bank, they employ a facility manager, they employ the electrical engineer, the electrical technician, the plumber, the janitorial, all of them are on their payroll. So that's what we are talking about, the in-house approach. Then in some organizations, based on the complexity, for example, when you're working in an hotel, where the art services is as important as the soft services, we kind of separate the two to allow that the person in charge of the art services can focus on all the art services and will not be bothered with the customer faces function where the soft services kind of come into play. And when we talk about art services, basically in simple terms, art services are all aspects of FM that have any form of engineering integrated into it. So if I'm dealing with a service where there's a form of engineering inside, right, we're talking about art services. But if I have a services where the core of this is more of hospitality and the likes, what we're talking about is soft services. So what we are saying is both of them are basically the same thing. But the only difference is in this, we are kind of separating the hard services from the soft services, and we have two equal level manager, one for the art services, probably somebody with background in engineering and no technical services, and someone in soft services, probably somebody with background in hospitality, social science, and what have you. So that kind of gives you a balance in such a way that each person can maximize their time and their experience to deliver the best services for the client. However, most of the time, organization wants to outsource their services. And there are two modes of outsourcing in FM. It's either you are doing what we call integrated FM management, or you are doing what we call the total FM management. So in module 5 and 6, 5 we talked about the integrated management, and we'll go through the various models. Then finally, we'll talk about the pata of them all, which is the total facility management. Although in Nigeria, to the best of my knowledge, in the past 10 years, it's very rare for you to find an ideal total FM. A lot of people keep shouting total FM, but in the real sense, it's very rare for you to find a total facility management model. The last person I know that implemented a total facility management is Standard Chartered Bank, although they did that after I left. But they were the organization at the top of my eye. I can say, okay, they really went into total facility management approach. What integrated facility management model is talking about is when we bundle and outsource one or more facility management operation to a facility management organization is what we call a integrated facility management. And why we call it integrated? If you remember when we started, I said there are 3 levels of FM: the operational, the tactical, and the strategic. Most of the time in integrated, it's either you are outsourcing your entire operation to a third-party vendor, or you are outsourcing both your operation and your tactical level to a facility. So if I'm doing operation level, that means I'm dealing with a lot of vendors, right? And I have my facility manager internally to be able to manage those vendors. That means I'm just doing operation. If I'm doing both tactical and operational level, and I'm bundling them, I'm giving it to a facility management company, for example, like Max-Migold. I'm also doing an integrated, which means my facility manager or my supervisors are not on my payroll. They are staff from the FM company. The people on my payroll will just be maybe senior management people who will directly be supervising the contract to ensure that the FM service company delivered as expected, And there are several reasons why you want to do that. You want to save costs, improve your operational integrity by leveraging on the experience of the facility management company and the like. So we can go on and on, but that's not really the major focus of my discussion. There are 3 main models of integrated FM. And the first one is what we call a management agent. The second one is what we call principal contractor. And the last one is what we call self-delivering total FM package. It is different from the total FM. And I will explain the 3 models in just a minute. The self-delivering total FM package is different from total FM. I'm saying it again. The self-delivering total FM is different from total facility management. So let's go back. So when we're talking about the management model, it's quite simple and straightforward. Now, if you have an organization that have several vendors, AC vendor, plumbing vendor, electrical vendor, janitorial vendor, several vendors, and they have signed contract with each one of those vendors. Now, so instead of them now having their own internal facility manager to manage the activities of those vendors to ensure that they comply with the contract they have signed or they have agreed upon, right? The organization now go out to look for a facility management company. Now, listen to the difference. Service vendor is different from facility management service provider. A service vendor can be a janitorial. A service vendor is an organization that is rendering a specific FM-related service like plumbing, electrical, generator repair, maintenance, janitorial. Those are FM-specific service. So when we are talking about vendor, we are talking about those organizations. Sometimes we call them third-party vendors. We're talking about organizations that offer specific service, a specialized service, a specific service. Now, the organization have signed contract with all these vendors. Then as instead of them managing those vendors on their own, then I say, oh, Max-Migold, you guys are a facility service provider. Oh yeah, come and help me to manage all this my vendor and ensure these are all the contracts I've signed with them. So ensure that they are able to deliver on those contracts and report back to us to let us know who among them is doing well and who among them is not doing well, so that we can either change them or we have a discussion with them on how to do better. And if you look at this, we have the client at the strategic level. You can still have some of the client staff at the tactical level, but you have the FM team, which is the FM service company, and they will be dealing with the supply chain, which is the vendors at this level, to ensure that they'll be able to deliver based on what they have agreed upon. Now, the difference between that, this management agent and the principal contractor, is based on the fact that in the principal contractor model, right, the client itself, if you look at it now, you can see that the client has a direct interaction with the operational people. So what we are saying that the client has a direct interaction with the vendor. But if you look at this representation, you can see that the client does not have a direct interaction with the operational level. The client has a direct interaction with the FM on site, which is the facility management service provider team. And this is the principal contractor director that will interact with the client representative to ensure that they are. So the basic differentiation is that the vendor that will work with the organization does not have a direct contract with the client. So let's assume first the bank, GT Bank now has a contract with Max-Migold to manage their facility. Now, the bank only have a single contract with Max-Migold. Now, Max-Migold will now collect that contract. The Max-Migold will now go out to go and look for vendor, which we now call third-party vendor. Then Max-Migold will have a different contract with each of the vendor to be able to provide a specific service to the bank. And that's the reason why we call them third-party vendor, because they are not party to the agreement between Max-Migold and the bank, right? It's an agreement between them and Max-Migold. And that's why in most organizations, they are always called third-party vendor. In this one, in the self-delivery model, it is similar to the principal contractor, but the only key difference is that the services, the FM services are not being delivered by third-party vendors. The FM services are being carried out by internal staff of the FM organization. Like the first example where we have Max-Migold and GTB. So instead of Max-Migold looking for third-party vendor to sign a contract with to be able to perform several specific FM-related activity, Max-Migold rather send out a job vacancy for each of those services like plumber, janitorial, electrician, then employ all these technicians and put them under his payroll. And these technicians will not be the one that will be doing all or most of the FM services. The other services that will be probably subcontracted will maybe be specialized FM services or minor whatever that we feel that it is not economical to have a specialist on our payroll. So those are the basic differences between the three models. And the reason why I'm spending a lot of time trying to differentiate this because you will find this kind of model in most of your FM contract. Most of the time, if your organization is directly involved in FM contracting, you'll find some of this variation in most of your contracts. Then also, if you are an FM manager that works with an organization, understand these three models will let you know how to package your bid when you want to bid out some of your services. What are the major drivers? Why do people want to adopt integrated FM as compared to doing some of these things internally? The first is finance. Try to reduce. When you reduce your entire overhead, you can reduce your entire cost of operation, providing competitive pricing. People, the fact that you are sourcing to Max-Migold, for example, which means that you'll be tapping into the collective wealth of the entire Max-Migold management, from Mr. Paul to myself and the rest of the team, and we are paying very little for that service. Compare to the fact that having us in your payroll as staff, which will be quite expensive. So it's more like you are having access to the best people at a relatively cheap price, customer to improve customer satisfaction, to enhance service delivery processes. So we can go on and on and on. You can go through each of these points. They are very self-explanatory. And if you have been in the industry for a while, you know that by the time you read this thing, some of these points will jump at you. You'll be able to, I'm 100% sure when you read through them, you'll be able to understand some of these key benefits. But if you have questions relating to them, you can always, chat me privately or drop message on your group, and the facilitators will be happy to chip in one or two ideas on the long run. Then the last part is where we talk about Total FM, and Total FM is kind of straightforward. And what we are talking about Total FM, if you remember, I said in integrated FM, we are only outsourcing, either we are outsourcing just the operational level or the operation and the tactical level. That's where we are talking about integrated. But if I find a situation where I outsource the operational, the tactical, and the management level of an FM, what I am doing is what they call total facility management. And that's why I said it is very rare to see the so-called total FM. People want to have some level of control and stuff like that. And the key benefit is similar to what we have point out. You have access, less skills or knowledge to procure, the cheap, one single invoice, ideal for small organization with no in-house skill. As much as we say it is ideal for small scale organization, but most of the time, even small scale organization will not deal with Total FM. They rather outsource. Most of the time, I see them outsourcing their operational level FM. Service components can be changed at any time. Management component can be brought back internally without losing any of the service components. What we are saying in essence is that we have three levels: operational, tactical, and strategic level. Now, what we are saying is that at any given point in time, we can decide, okay, the FM can please retain the operation and the tactical and leave the strategic level for us. We'll deal with it at our level and stuff like that. It's help us to achieve the best value for money. But some of the key limitation is management can be poor, because when you outsource your entire three levels, what we are saying that you are trusting the FM organization to have enough sense, to use the layman language, to have enough sense to be able to translate your business objective, strategic objective into facility management, strategic plan. And if they don't have that level of understanding to know exactly where you are going to be able to translate, trying to manage that aspect might be a bit problematic. It's difficult to terminate unsatisfactory component package, especially the management, because the point is you are outsourcing your entire facility management, which means that both the services and the management is the staff, which means that the performance of the entire contract is still being managed or being measured by your facility management vendor. So even when you are not satisfied, there's likelihood the vendor will be reporting high performance. So trying to convince the FM service provider that they are not performing, it might be a bit problematic. Insufficient incentive for the outsource management to reduce costs. And this is quite interesting, because most of the time, most of these contracts are structured in such a way that the FM organization management fee is a percentage of the total cost of operation. which means the higher the cost of operation, the more management fee they accrue. It requires significant skills and knowledge to be able to achieve successful results, and is probably not suitable for those who are looking for the cheapest price. Now, we talked about, if you remember when we were talking, when we were starting, we talked about some basic information you needed to know with respect to starting up or kickstarting an FM operation, either as a staff or as an organization. And to leverage more on that, we also talked about list of information that is required for use to start up an FM operation, either an FM operation or an FM business. We talk about list of vendor contracts, real estate lease agreement, landlord contact information, financial data. Financial data can be simple as to understand their financial system. What kind of financial code are they using? How do you process? What is the process of requesting for funding and stuff like that? Utility bill, accounting requirement, which also ties to their financial data, IT requirement, organization chart. We kind of give you information about the organization structure, site information or drawing, SLA, which is service level requirement, or what we call the SLAs. We have equipment, which is your asset register, maintenance record, building rules and regulation, permit, key contacts, or emergency number like the police, the fire service, and the likes, incident reporting procedure, emergency response plan, business continuity requirement, life and fire safety program. So some organization, you might not have all this information, but you try as much as possible to gather as many information as possible for you to be able to deliver, or for you to be able to plan out your entire facility management operation from the get-go. So what do you need when you are trying to transition from in-house to integrated facility management? The first is the business unit needs to understand the change and what will be different under the integrated FM. There has to be a strong communication plan that covers what happened before the transition, what happened during the transition, and what happened after the transition. The integrated integrated facility management service provider needs to establish their staffing requirement and the organization structure. If there are open vacancy or open position, they need to fill them immediately, provide required orientation and training, knowledge transfer from the current incumbent staff if they are not retaining them to the upcoming staff, finalize the contract, perform due diligence, create subcontract for third-party vendor, set up technologies and service desks. It depends if you have technology as part of your contract or as part of what you promise your client to set them up, like maybe setting up a CAFM solution, a CMMS solution, or what have you. Setting up an accounting and operating procedure, develop a risk mitigation plan, and obtaining detailed information and record about the operation, which means what historical record or historical data about the operation, especially if it's a running facility. If it's a new facility, maybe they're coming from construction to operation, it's a bit straightforward, because what you just be dealing with is more of snacks, snack leaves from construction and the likes. The major driver for both FM and total FM is similar to what we had earlier on when we were talking about the major driver for total facility management is basically the same thing, because we are trying to reduce costs. We are trying to streamline our operation. As a bank, if I'm running a banking system, I want to ensure that I can focus on my core business and let somebody else deal with the building, the water, the generator, the light issue, and I want to focus on how to manage customer money. The other key driver is to improve service delivery by leveraging on the experience and the technical competency of the facility management vendor or service provider. We can improve on our service delivery because we can leverage on their experience and their technical prowess, to ensure that we can deliver better quality to our client. Reduce management complexity, because I'm dealing with the organization, I might probably not have some crazy structural or some crazy managerial level within my organization. So it makes management process. I might just have a single contract. In fact, the procurement department manager might actually be the one in charge managing the contract and ensuring that the facility management company delivered as, it might just be maybe the administrative manager managing the contract. So we won't have some very complex management structure in place, which make it easier to manage. It helps to drive consistency across our portfolio because we are dealing with a facility management company, which I believe will have a standard way of doing things, and they can apply that across all our portfolio. We can gain economic of scale, leveraging on spend. What we are saying is that because we are dealing with a bulk service, we are, instead of paying kobo to different, service provider, whatever, we can bundle it. We can bundle every service into a single service, and we can pay for that single service by leveraging on the economic of scale. So imagine I'm dealing with several vendors. Each one of them will have their own supervisor and stuff like that, and I have to be paying for each of these supervisors. But if I bundle everything into an FM service, the FM department, the FM company will just have maybe a facility manager, a facility supervisor that will deal with everything, and enhance share information, introduce best practice, improve global delivery, improve data technology and reporting, drive continuous improvement, and provide a more flexible, scalable delivery model, understand how to plan an orderly transition. So what we are saying in essence, in summary, is that the reason why organization wants to go either into total integrated facility management or total facility management is a way to improve, in summary, reduce costs and improve on their overall service delivery. This brings us to the end of our discussion. So far, we have talked about the levels in FM. We talked about component of FM organization structure. We have compared the function and structure. We talked about the traditional. We have talked about integrated model, and we have talked about the total facility management model. So this brings me to the end of my lecture, and the floor is open for questions, additions, subtraction, and so many in between. So the floor is open. If you have any question, you can ask me before we bring the discussion to a close. Questions. Yes, Adebola, you can unmute and ask your question.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Class. I want to ask a facility manager that just concentrate or specialize on what we like call it, like a maintenance, whereby if there's an issue, you call on, we attend to the issue, then we leave immediately. What kind of facility manager are we going to call that? It's not a full, is it a contract? How will I put it? Whereby if there is a problem, we just call, we have our SLA, then we tackle it immediately. But there will be an agreement that at the end of so month, this is what will be paid. What was the example of kind of facility manager?
Let me understand you very well.
Okay,
a client will have an issue. Once they have that issue, they will call your company and say, we have so issue. Right?
Yes.
Then you will not send your staff to the place and say, okay, based on this issue, you are go and check what is there. Once they get there, they will check.
Yes.
Then once they check, they fix the issue and they go away.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, sir. But we are being placed on a monthly salary. So what kind of facility manager are we going to call that? Or which other aspect are we going?
It's still an integrated FM approach whereby what they are outsourcing basically is their operation. If you remember when I was talking about integrated, I said you can either outsource your operation only or outsource your operation and your taxi card. That's integrated FM. It's when you now outsource your strategy, that's when you call it total FM. So what you guys are experiencing is a company that have outsourced only their operation to you guys. So what you guys are doing is what they call out. They don't want you guys to be a call out. They call it call out. So they don't want you guys on their premises. They only call you when there is problem. We have the same agreement with USAID or something like that, where they sign a contract with us. We don't have any of our staff on their sites. Although we don't have a monthly salary though, but what we have is once we go there, once that issue we fix, they pay for that. But the reason why they place you guys on salary is because you guys are also doing their PPM, if I'm correct. That's the only reason why somebody will place you on salary, which means maybe you are servicing their AC either on a monthly basis or on a quarterly basis. You are servicing maybe generator, electrical. Yes. So that's the reason why they are placing you guys. The salary that what you are calling salary is not salary. It's what they call routine maintenance cost. Are you getting my point? It's called routine maintenance cost. Now, if it's corrective, if there's something outside the normal, what you have agreed on the contract, they will pay extra for that. Maybe something get damaged and you need to buy the component and fix it. They will pay for it. You get. They might not pay for labor, but they will pay for the material. So that's the kind of system you guys are running with your contract.
All right, sir. Okay, sir.
All right. All right. Any other question? Question, contribution? All right, so at this point, we'll bring the class to a close. I think I'll be meeting you guys again next week, where we'll be talking about, I think, FM technology or so. So until then, bye-bye, good night, and we'll meet again.
Thank you very much, sir. Good night, sir. Good night, class.
Thank you.